5:23 local time. Strait of Hormuz. The forward radar console flashes red. Not a glitch, not sea clutter. A clean surface contact. Fast, deliberate, and closing. The officer of the deck does not raise his voice. He does not need to. The bridge pulls tight into silence as bearings are called and repeated, each number clipped and exact. The distance falls in half-mile steps. The destroyer stays on course. Outside, dawn hangs low over the water, pale light stretched across a shipping lane already crowded with tankers and bulk carriers threading the Narrows. Inside the Combat Information Center, tracks begin stacking into order. One contact stands apart. No AIS, no commercial profile. Speed rising beyond what makes sense for a safe transit through the channel. Contact accelerating. The words land without drama. They do not need any. At 5:24, the ship's long-range optics lock in. Electro-optical feeds sharpen into steel and spray. A dark hull cuts through the glare. Iranian, close enough now to read posture from shape alone. The angle of the bow, the way the deck sits, the intent written in geometry. The first bridge-to-bridge hail goes out, calm and professional. International waters, identify yourself, state your intentions. The radio answers with static. No one looks surprised, the destroyer does not maneuver. Not yet. Helm steady, speed steady. The watch team understands the math. Closest point of approach is tightening. 9 nautical miles, then 7. In these waters, that is breathing distance. The contact increases speed again. On the bridge, a hand rests on the rail. The captain watches the plot without expression. This is not a moment for speeches. It is a moment for records. Every bearing change is logged. Every second is time-stamped. Cameras roll, systems listen. Below, the electronic warfare suite comes fully awake. Not to shout, not to blind, but to hear. Emissions are cataloged. Faint sweeps are traced and tagged. Patterns begin to form. The ship does not react to them. It absorbs them. The second hail goes out, this time with distance and CPA called clearly. Alter course. Maintain safe separation. Again, nothing. The range drops below 6 miles. On deck, the 5-inch gun mount turns a few degrees. No more than that. Not a threat, just a sentence written in steel, visible to anyone looking through glass. Enough to say the ship is awake. Condition 3 is set. Key stations are manned. It is routine, drilled, almost dull in its precision. That is the point. The destroyer does not escalate. It prepares. The Iranian vessel keeps coming. Cameras catch movement near its forward deck. Personnel appear, disappear, then reappear at the edge of the frame. No visible weapons manned, no flags raised, just motion. Heat signatures shifting against cold steel. CPA is recalculated, 3.12 miles and shrinking. In the CIC, no one speculates. Speculation is useless. Data is not. The contact speed profile is logged. Course stability noted. The lack of response becomes its own data point. The helicopter is brought to readiness. Blades still. Crew strapped in. No launch order yet. Air presence is leverage. You do not use it until you have to. Outside, a tanker's wake crosses the destroyer's bow, a reminder of how narrow this sea really is. There is no room for mistakes here. A turn at the wrong moment does not just risk collision, it risks a story no one wants. The Iranian vessel adjusts heading by a few degrees, just enough to test. The destroyer does not mirror it. The bridge stays quiet, the kind of quiet that only exists when procedure is trusted. Another hail, shorter this time, clearer. This is a U.S. Navy warship operating lawfully. Your approach is unsafe. No reply. The range slips below 3 miles. No alarms, no raised voices, just the steady cadence of reports and the hum of systems doing exactly what they were built to do. The destroyer is not waiting for permission to defend itself. It is waiting for the other ship to decide what it intends to be. And in that waiting, measured in minutes and fractions of miles, the balance begins to shift. Because every second the contact presses closer, it reveals more. Every unanswered call narrows the options. At 5:34, the plot stabilizes for a breath. The Iranian vessel holds its line. No erratic movement, no retreat, just speed, just intent. 5:36 local time. The contact does not slow. It corrects. 5 degrees to port, then steadies. Small enough to look harmless on a chart, large enough to tighten the geometry. In the Strait of Hormuz, 5 degrees can be the difference between parallel transit and a forced close pass. The destroyer holds its line. Traffic density rises with the sun. A southbound tanker threads the lane to port. Another northbound silhouette moves across the horizon to starboard. Steel is funneled through a channel barely wide enough for error. The Iranian vessel knows this. Everyone does. CPA decreasing. The report is factual, stripped of tone. Closest point of approach is now under 3 nautical miles. At these speeds, minutes compress into seconds. The officer of the deck confirms the numbers. The captain nods once. No course change, no speed change. The ship will not be the first to blink. Another bridge-to-bridge hail goes out, measured, unmistakable, distance, bearing, safe separation required. The answer is the same as before, silence, broken only by the hiss of open water through the speaker. Inside the Combat Information Center, tracks bloom and settle as algorithms do their work. Commercial hulls are filtered, predicted, pushed lower in priority. The Iranian contact remains highlighted. Its speed profile is logged again. Faster than necessary, faster than prudent. Then it increases speed for the third time. This is no longer coincidence. This is pressure. On the bridge, eyes move from plot to horizon and back. Long-range optics sharpen the image. Deck activity on the Iranian ship now looks deliberate. Crew movement clusters forward, then disperses. No visible weapons manned. That too is logged. Absence matters as much as presence. Below decks, the electronic warfare team listens even harder. Faint emissions repeat, low-power sweeps skimming the edge of detectability. Not targeting radar, not yet, but active, curious. Each pulse is captured, time-stamped, and added to a growing library. The destroyer does not answer with its own emissions. Silence here is leverage. CPA collapses to 2 nautical miles. That number hangs in the air longer than it should. 2 miles is close enough to read intent without optics. Close enough that a turn, intended or not, can force reactions neither side claims to want. The 5-inch gun mount remains where it is, visible, quiet. The message has already been sent. Repeating it adds nothing. The helicopter crew receives an update. Ready status confirmed. Engines still cold. The aircraft remains chained to the deck. Presence is one step. Launch is another. The Iranian vessel shifts again, this time holding the new course longer. Its bow angle now suggests a shallow intercept, not parallel transit. The geometry tightens like a knot. A commercial container ship passes between the 2 warships at distance, its stack of steel boxes forming a moving wall. For a moment, the Iranian contact is partially masked. Radar never loses it. Optics reacquire within seconds. The sea offers no cover. Another hail, shorter, firmer. Unsafe approach. Alter course immediately. Still nothing. The destroyer's bridge remains controlled, almost clinical. No one raises a voice, no one gestures. Procedure carries the weight. Logs fill line by line. Cameras record without blinking. The Iranian vessel's speed dips briefly, then returns. A test, a probe. The kind of adjustment meant to read reactions. There is none. Destroyer course unchanged. Speed unchanged. The captain understands the value of predictability. In close quarters, unpredictability escalates faster than hardware ever can. Below, analysts note the Iranian pattern. Speed surges followed by micro-corrections, silence on the radio, active sensing without commitment. This is not navigation, it is choreography. CPA recalculates again, 1.8 nautical miles. That number crosses an invisible line, not a legal one, a practical one. The margin for error narrows to seconds. Any sudden helm input, any misread, can force a chain of events no checklist can unwind. The captain gives a quiet order. Prepare the helicopter for possible launch. No rush, no announcement, just readiness. On the Iranian ship, deck movement slows. Personnel cluster near the superstructure, farther from the bow. Optics catch the shift. It is subtle, but it is real. Pressure works both ways. For the first time since the encounter began, the Iranian vessel holds speed without increasing it. It maintains course without further correction. The line remains aggressive, but the tempo changes. The destroyer does not relax. This is not resolution. It is transition. The standoff has moved beyond approach and into endurance. Minutes matter now. Who holds position longer? Who reveals more? Who decides the cost of pressing closer is no longer worth the image of doing so? At sea, restraint is not weakness. It is control. And control in the Strait of Hormuz is one of the rarest commodities there is. 5:51 local time. Nothing erupts. Nothing swerves. That is the deception. The danger here is not noise. It is accumulation. Inside the Combat Information Center, the destroyer is already winning a contest no one outside can see. Electronic warfare consoles glow softly, lines of data stacking into patterns. Every emission from the Iranian vessel, each low-power sweep, each fleeting pulse, lands cleanly in the receivers. Frequency, duration, repetition, logged, tagged, stored. The ship does not answer back. Silence is not passivity, it is discipline. On the bridge, the captain watches the plot thicken with history. This is no longer a single encounter. It is a data set forming in real time. The Iranian vessel continues operating just below the threshold, active enough to probe, restrained enough to deny intent. That gray zone is where these encounters live. It is also where they begin to fail. The helicopter deck crew receives the order they expected, but never rushed toward. Unchain, power on, The MH-60R comes alive slowly, deliberately. No scramble, no urgency broadcast across the deck. Rotor blades begin to turn in controlled rhythm. This is presence, not provocation. On the Iranian vessel, optics catch the change almost immediately. Personnel pause. Heads turn upward. Movement on deck tightens inward, drifting away from exposed positions. The helicopter has not launched yet, but the message has already arrived. The Iranian vessel's emissions change. A brief spike, then a reduction. Analysts mark the moment. This is adjustment under observation. Someone on the other bridge is recalculating risk. The destroyer keeps listening. Below deck, analysts compare the live feed against previous encounters, archive signatures, older recordings. Similarities emerge. Differences matter even more. The way this ship modulates power, the timing between sweeps, the hesitation after being noticed, each detail sharpens the picture. Then the helicopter lifts off. It does not rush the Iranian vessel. It climbs to a stable altitude, arcs wide, and settles into a parallel observation track. Cameras come alive in the air. Forward-looking infrared paints heat against steel. High-resolution optics resolve faces, posture, hand movement. The helicopter is not there to intimidate. It is there to see and to be seen. The Iranian vessel answers without words. Speed holds steady. Course remains assertive, but no longer tightens. The bow still points into the intercept geometry, but the pressure has shifted. This is no longer a push. It is a hold. A green laser flickers briefly across the Iranian bridge windows. Non-lethal, non-verbal, impossible to mistake. The beam is steady, controlled, precise. Then the helicopter's loudspeaker follows. Identify yourself. You are operating unsafely in international waters. Alter course. This time, the silence feels different. On the Iranian deck, movement accelerates, but not forward. Personnel step back from the bow. One figure raises an arm to shield against the glare. Another points toward the helicopter, then back toward the bridge. The destroyer logs everything. Electronic emissions drop again. The Iranian vessel is going quieter, not dark, just quieter. Analysts note the transition. This is defensive behavior. This is recognition. The destroyer does not chase. The helicopter maintains its orbit, never crossing the bow, never cutting off room to maneuver. Pressure without enclosure. Observation without entrapment. This is how information dominance works. You let the other side move just enough to reveal itself. For the first time since 523, a transmission cracks across the radio. Broken, measured, carefully phrased. The Iranian vessel identifies itself, references proximity to national waters, and asks the destroyer to adjust course. The captain listens. He does not interrupt. When he answers, it is short and exact. This is a United States Navy warship conducting lawful transit in international waters. Your movements are being recorded. Maintain safe separation. No threats, no lecture, just fact. The Iranian vessel alters course by a few degrees, then a few more. The CPA begins to open slowly, almost reluctantly. Speed drops by 2 knots, then another. The helicopter remains airborne, cameras steady, recording the withdrawal frame by frame. No celebration follows, no announcement rings out across the bridge. The destroyer remains exactly what it was before, steady, lawful, unprovoked. But the balance has changed. Because in 40 minutes, the Iranian vessel did not simply fail to force a reaction. It gave up something far more valuable: its patterns, its thresholds, its instincts under pressure. The real trap was never physical, it was patience. And patience at sea leaves no smoke, only records. 6:07 local time. Now the clock matters for a different reason, not because something is happening, but because it is no longer. In close encounters, time becomes force. Every minute a ship holds posture without escalation rewrites the balance. The Iranian vessel continues on its adjusted heading, but only barely. The change is minimal, enough to widen the CPA, not enough to look like retreat. Speed settles, then wavers. The geometry loosens by fractions. Those fractions are everything. On the destroyer, the bridge keeps its cadence. Reports arrive and are acknowledged. No commentary, no speculation. The captain's eyes move between the surface plot and the horizon, measuring consistency. Consistency is control. Commercial traffic thickens again. A pair of tankers pass in opposite directions, their wakes crossing and fading. The Strait does what it always does, moving the world's commerce through a narrow throat. The Iranian vessel knows the audience has multiplied. Every move now is visible to more eyes, more cameras, more radars. The helicopter remains on station, offset and patient. Its orbit is deliberate, wide enough to avoid provocation, close enough to deny ambiguity. Sensors stay locked. Recording never stops. Below decks, analysts mark the Iranian timeline. Initial acceleration, repeated course corrections, emissions tapering, delayed verbal identification. Each step is plotted against the clock. The pattern suggests strain, not mechanical, but cognitive. Decisions are being weighed and reweighed. The Iranian vessel attempts another micro-adjustment, nudging speed up by a knot. The maneuver lasts less than a minute before it is undone. A test aborted. The destroyer does not respond. The helicopter does not change altitude. Silence holds. This is where many encounters begin to break, when one side realizes that pressure is no longer creating leverage, only exposure. The longer this lasts, the clearer the record becomes. A second transmission comes over the radio, more confident than the first, but still careful. The words are formal, the tone restrained. A restatement of position, a request framed as routine. The captain answers once. Lawful transit. Maintain separation. The exchange ends there. The Iranian vessel's deck posture changes again. Personnel consolidate near the superstructure. The bow clears. Optics confirm no visible weapons manned. Heat signatures cluster away from the forward edge. The ship is protecting itself from cameras, from interpretation, from risk. Speed drops another notch. The CPA opens past 2.5 nautical miles. 47 minutes since first contact. That number is noted quietly in the log. It matters because it defines endurance. For 47 minutes, the destroyer held course through pressure, traffic, and proximity. For 47 minutes, the Iranian vessel was forced to choose between escalation and disengagement. It chooses distance. The course change is subtle at first, then unmistakable. The intercept geometry dissolves. What remains is parallel motion, then divergence. The Iranian ship slides outward, widening the lane, giving up the center it had tried to occupy. No announcement marks the moment, no signal flare, just math resolving itself. The helicopter tightens its orbit briefly, making sure the change is real. Cameras capture the widening wake angle, the diminishing bow-on profile. Once confirmed, the aircraft settles back into its offset track. The destroyer remains steady. There is no pursuit, no unnecessary shadowing, only what safety requires. Electronic emissions from the Iranian vessel drop to baseline navigation levels. Analysts flag the transition. The probing phase is over. The encounter has entered its final state. On the bridge, posture does not change. That is intentional. Success in moments like this looks exactly like routine. Anything else invites misreading. The Iranian vessel is now clearly outside any unsafe CPA. Distance grows with every minute. The Strait resumes its normal rhythm around both ships, commerce flowing, wakes crossing, radar plots settling back into predictable arcs. The helicopter receives instructions to remain airborne a little longer, not as a warning, but as documentation. The destroyer's log closes the incident timeline. Start time, end state, distances, communications, emissions, visuals. The file is complete. There are no high fives, no relieved laughter. The bridge sounds the same as it did before dawn, calm, procedural, professional. Because the purpose was never to win a moment. It was to define a line, hold it under pressure, and leave behind a record that speaks louder than confrontation. In the Strait of Hormuz, restraint is not the absence of action. It is action sustained. 6:42 local time. The helicopter recovers cleanly. Blades slow, chains go back on. The deck returns to its normal geometry as if nothing happened. That appearance matters. Routine is the final signal. On the surface plot, the Iranian vessel continues opening distance. Its track bends outward, then settles into a compliant transit lane. Speed stabilizes at a level consistent with safe passage. No further course corrections. No renewed emissions. The encounter ends without a word to the market. The destroyer never changes course. Inside the Combat Information Center, the work shifts from vigilance to verification. Analysts replay the timeline in compressed form. Minutes reduced to frames, frames reduced to data points. The sequence is clean. The escalation curve is clear. The response is textbook. This is how encounters end when one side controls tempo. The captain walks the bridge once more, scanning horizon and plot with the same measured calm he carried through the standoff. There is no debrief speech, no summary announcement. The crew already knows what happened. They felt it in the cadence of reports, the steadiness of the helm, the absence of reaction. What mattered was not what the destroyer did. It was what it did not do. No aggressive maneuvering, no reactive emissions, no posture beyond readiness. The ship remained lawful, predictable, and patient, forcing every meaningful choice onto the approaching vessel. That is why the outcome carried more weight than any dramatic gesture ever could. Because by disengaging, the Iranian vessel confirmed what 47 minutes of pressure had already exposed. Its thresholds, its comfort zone, its limits. Under sustained observation, the destroyer collected something more valuable than distance. It collected behavior. Every acceleration attempt, every aborted probe, every delayed transmission, each detail is now part of a permanent record. Time-stamped, cross-referenced, and stored well beyond the horizon of this transit. Not for headlines, for understanding. The surface picture returns to baseline. Merchant traffic dominates again, icons flowing north and south through the Strait's narrow throat. The Iranian contact fades into the clutter of lawful transit, indistinguishable now from any other hull moving steel across water. From the outside, it looks uneventful. That is the deception, because the effect of restraint does not register immediately. It ripples outward to command centers, analysts, planners, people who measure encounters not in drama, but in Dayton. The realization arrives quietly. Pressure was applied, and it worked. No confrontation was required to make the point. No escalation was necessary to set the boundary. On the destroyer, the watch rotates. Fresh eyes take stations. Coffee replaces adrenaline. Logs are signed and archived. The ship continues its transit as scheduled, unchanged in speed, unchanged in mission. For the crew, this was not an anomaly. It was proficiency under constraint. For Tehran, the lesson is different. The message it meant to send, presence through proximity, never landed the way it was intended. Instead of forcing a reaction, it triggered observation. Instead of shaping behavior, it revealed it. That realization does not come over the radio or through bridge lights. It comes later in briefings and reviews when the timeline is replayed without emotion. When 47 minutes are reduced to conclusions, and the conclusion is simple. The destroyer did not retreat. It did not provoke. It did not blink. It held. In contested waters, holding is not passive. It is a deliberate act that leaves the other side with fewer and fewer options. The longer it lasts, the fewer choices remain. By the time the Iranian vessel widened its course, the decision had already been made, not on the destroyer's bridge, but on the bridge of the ship approaching it. Distance was the only safe outcome left. The Strait of Hormuz looks ordinary again. Sunlight sharpens. Wakes fade. Radios carry routine traffic. To anyone watching from a distance, nothing remarkable happened this morning. But restraint leaves marks you do not see from the surface. It leaves records, and records shape the next encounter long before the first radar return appears. Out here, power is not measured by how loudly you answer a challenge. It is measured by how long you can absorb one and continue on unchanged.